sleep training. So what is sleep training and how do I know if it's a good option for me?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this term can be interpreted in so many different ways. I know we've talked about this too. So, you could have somebody who tells me that they're sleep training their 2-week-old. And what they might mean by that is I'm putting them on a routine and I'm following age appropriate wake windows. That might be all that they mean by that. Whereas some other people might use that term to mean I'm teaching my baby to learn to sleep on their own, right? To fall asleep on their own. That's more typically what we sort of identify sleep training with. But basically, when I talk about sleep training, when we talk about more traditional forms of sleep training, really what we mean is that we are teaching a baby to fall asleep from an awake state. So not kind of helping them to get sleepy or drowsy or helping them to fall asleep, but we're helping them learn to sleep the way that we sleep. So we get ourselves into bed at night, we're pretty awake, hopefully for the most part, and we get ourselves into a restorative sleep state and we get to sleep. So that's really what I mean by sleep training. But even in terms of teaching a baby to fall asleep on their own, there's so many different ways of going about this. So there's hundreds of different ways to go about this, really, truly. And it depends on your comfort level. It depends on your baby's temperament. It depends on how quickly you want to see progress. There's so many different ways to achieve this. And why would we even want to do it in the first place? There's actually a scientific or biological reason why we might want to teach babies to fall asleep on their own. And this is simply because it helps them connect to their sleep-wake cycle. So a sleep-wake cycle is an amount of time that baby cycles through light and deep periods of sleep. And we know that if a baby is able to fall asleep on their own at the beginning of a sleep-wake cycle, so at the beginning of bedtime, at the beginning of a nap, they're much more likely to be able to do the same thing between sleep-wake cycles when they kind of come into a lighter period of sleep. So are there babies that you can continue to assist to sleep and they'll sleep through the night? Absolutely. Those are usually the more magical unicorn babies. They do exist. But there is a reason why we might want to teach baby to fall asleep on their own.
And can you differentiate between sleep training and cry it out?
Yeah, for sure. So cry it out is sort of this, I don't like this term at all because it's fraught with all this kind of misinterpretation. So I think a lot of people use this term cry it out synonymously with sleep training, and it really shouldn't be, because what it kind of brings up for people is, oh, sleep training or cry it out means I put baby down, I walk away, and I let them fall asleep from crying out of sheer exhaustion, right? And those two things, they really, they don't need to be synonymous. Sleep training or teaching baby to fall asleep on their own does not mean that that's what you need to do, right?
Okay, good. Yeah, because I agree with you. I think it's synonymous. A lot of moms think they have two options. They can either answer a baby's every call or they can let the baby cry. And I think it's, as with most things in parenting, there's a huge gray area that deserves way more attention than we give it. And we tend to polarize ourselves into these two camps when there's really, like you said, there's hundreds of different ways of going about this. And it's going to be dependent on each kid and each family and each mom.
Yes, I totally agree. I always say, never feel as though you have to do either this or that. There's never like a binary choice with this stuff, right? Just like everything else with parenting. Yeah.